The Young and the Restless, YNR, recap for Wednesday, November 5th, indicates that Audra Charles's Zuleika Silver, $500,000 theft and name change will be revealed while Nick Newman, Joshua Morrow, Dex Matt Clark aka Mitch Bacall, Roger Howarth. At the hospital, Nick will rush to Noah Newman's Lucas Adams' side and joke around with his son. Noah will learn he was in a car accident, but he won't remember anything about it and will be apologetic for causing such a fuss. Of course, Nick and Sharon Newman, Sharon Case, will just be glad Noah's awake. Noah will eventually be taken away for more scans, so Nick will decide to head back to the shadow room and confront Matt. In the meantime, Nick will want Sharon to give any Matt updates to Victoria Newman, Amelia Heinley, and Nikki Newman, Melody Thomas Scott, since it'd mean telling Victor Newman, Eric Braden, too. Nick won't be ready to deal with Victor's involvement yet, so he'll plan to tell his dad they need Newman's security as a precaution because of the suspicion surrounding Noah's crash. Sharon will face Nikki and Victoria's interrogation soon after, but she'll manage to keep a tight lid on the news that Matt has resurfaced. At the shadow room, Detective Burrow, Matt Cohen, will guess things didn't work out like Matt expected and will grill him about what the plan is. Burrow won't like playing catch-up, but Mitch will push him to be patient. Based on the way Mitch calls him detective and mocks him about his duties, it'll seem like Burrow is just putting on this cop show because Mitch ordered him to. Sienna Bacall, Tamara Braun, will come along and interrupt, so Burrow will question her about why Noah's parents came to her for answers and why she called Noah's phone. Burrow will also ask for the time Sienna left the club that night, so she'll get defensive and will definitely seem on edge. After Burrow pushes for Sienna's address, she won't see how that's relevant. Mitch will pipe up about them living in Malibu Canyon, so Burrow will point out that the crash happened near there. Sienna will try to act like maybe Noah was coming to see Mitch that night, but Mitch will insist he was out of town. Although Mitch will pretend he's confused about all this, it'll be obvious that he's messing with Sienna and trying to get a reaction out of her. At one point, Nick will enter the nightclub, so that'll give him a chance to observe and eavesdrop nearby. After Burrow takes off, Nick will interrupt Sienna and Mitch aka Matt's conversation. Once Nick decks Matt right in front of Sienna, she'll gape in shock. At Claire Newman's Haley Aaron hotel room on Wednesday's YNR episode, she'll pack her belongings and flash back to hitting the sheets with Holden Novak, Nathan Owens. Holden will show up at the door and admit he doesn't want secrets standing in the way of whatever else might happen between them. That'll lead to Holden blabbing the Audra dirt that Claire's been so desperate to hear. There'll be a faux flashback to go along with Holden's explanation. Back when Holden was bartending at the Shadow Room, Audra was a regular and brought a guy, Mike Faltro, from the art world into the club. Audra ordered up a bottle of bubbly to celebrate their collaboration, so the guy got drunk and couldn't keep his hands off her. After Holden noticed and intervened, he suggested they'd overserve the man and tried to call him a car. The guy tossed Mitch's name around and threatened to have Holden fired. Meanwhile, Audra lifted the guy's wallet and took off. It wasn't until the next day that Audra showed up frantic after the man figured out it was gone and sent some of his goons to her place. Audra lied about not having the wallet and brought it to Holden, who wondered if she took anything out of it. After Audra acted like she didn't, she left the wallet with Holden and told him to pretend it was just found in the bathroom or under the table. Once Audra took off, the guy came back and got the fake story from Holden. Unfortunately, Audra lied since something was indeed missing from the wallet, a cashier's check for $500,000. The man blew up at Holden and accused him of stealing the check, but Mitch stepped in before things got out of hand. Audra skipped town with the money and changed her name, so the guy couldn't track her down. It turns out Audra previously went by Audra Cortez until this $500,000 theft incident happened. Although Claire will want to know the name of this robbed guy who supposedly owned a gallery, Holden won't share that part. Claire will clearly want to use the info as Audra leverage, but Holden will ultimately reveal that Audra later sent him $100,000 after it was all over. That means if Audra goes down, then Holden will go down too. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Claire will have a lot to mull over after Holden's confession, so stay tuned. The Genoa city air was thick with a potent cocktail of betrayal, desperation, and raw fury this Wednesday, November 5th, as the fallout from Audra's brazen heist continued to ripple through the lives of everyone in her orbit. culminating in a violent confrontation that left one man bleeding on the pavement and another facing the cold reality of his own rage. The episode picked up precisely where Tuesday's heart-pounding climax left off, with a perfectly coiffed and impeccably dressed Audra Charles standing not in her cramped temporary apartment, but in the vault of the Newman Enterprises off-site financial archives. Her target wasn't a person, but a specific, unmarked safety deposit box, one she knew belonged to Nikki Newman, accessed not with a key, but with a code she'd meticulously extracted from a vulnerable and intoxicated Nikki weeks prior during a girls' night she had engineered for this very purpose. The cold, polished steel of the box slid open to reveal its contents, neatly bound stacks of $100 bills and a single, devastatingly incriminating file. With hands that were surprisingly steady, Audra filled a sleek, nondescript black briefcase with $500,000 of Nikki's emergency rainy day fund, money so off the books, not even Victor knew its full extent. Her escape was a masterclass in cold-blooded calm. She didn't run. She walked, nodding politely to the security guard she'd charmed for weeks with coffee and conversation, her Prada heels clicking a rhythm of pure triumph on the polished marble floor. The first stop was not a bank, but a dingy, back-alley office where a man who asked no questions for a hefty fee processed paperwork for a completely new identity. Audra Charles was a liability now. She needed to vanish and be reborn. As she signed the final document, a slow, calculated smile spread across her lips. She was now Elena Hartley, a name plucked from a forgotten grandmother's maiden name, a ghost with $500,000 and a secret that could shatter the Newman family. Meanwhile, at the Newman Ranch, a different storm was brewing. Victor, having received an anonymous tip about financial irregularities tied to Nikki's name, was in a quiet, seething rage. He cornered Nick in the grand living room, his voice a low, dangerous growl. "I've had my suspicions about your mother's indulgences," Victor stated, his eyes boring into his son. "But this is something else. There's a trail, Nicholas. A digital one. And it leads directly to that Charles woman." Nick, feeling the weight of his own failure to protect his mother from Audra's manipulation, felt his fists clench. "I'll handle it, Dad. I should have seen this coming." The personal and professional collided explosively at Society, where Kyle Abbott was anxiously awaiting Audra's arrival. He was finalizing the last details of their new media venture, a project he believed would finally allow him to step out of his father's shadow and rival the global influence of Jabot. When Audra, now Elena, swept in, the briefcase clutched in her hand, he looked relieved. "Do you have the seed capital?" he asked, referring to the $200,000 she'd promised to contribute. She placed the briefcase on the table, clicking it open just enough for him to see the stacks of bills inside. $500,000, Kyle. I decided to go all in. Let's make this undeniable." Kyle's eyes widened, a mix of shock and avarice. "Audra, where did you get this?" She waved a dismissive hand, her lie smooth as silk. "An old investment from my glissade days. It finally matured. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth." The trust between them, always tenuous, was now built on a foundation of stolen cash, and the cracks were already beginning to show. Nick's investigation led him down a darker path. Using his own network of contacts, ones that operated far from the pristine world of corporate espionage, he tracked Audra's movements from the financial archives to the questionable lawyer's office. The name, Elena Hartley, meant nothing to him, but the description of the woman who'd procured it fit Audra perfectly. His blood ran cold. She wasn't just stealing. She was planning to disappear. And he knew exactly who had helped her get close enough to his mother to pull this off: his brother, Adam. The confrontation at Adam's penthouse was brutal and brotherly in its ferocity. Nick didn't bother knocking. He shoved the door open, finding Adam calmly sipping a whiskey. "Where is she, Adam?" Nick snarled, his body coiled like a spring. Adam looked up, feigning innocence with practiced ease. "Who, Nick? You'll have to be more specific. There are so many women you've alienated." "Audra, your little protege." She cleaned out Mom's safety deposit box. $500,000 gone. "And you handed her the key to the kingdom." Adam stood, his own temper flaring. I didn't tell her to rob our mother. I simply gave her an opportunity. Audra makes her own choices. Dangerous, brilliant choices. Something you've never had the stomach for. The air crackled with decades of resentment. This ends now, Nick growled, stepping closer. Or what, Nicholas? Adam sneered. You'll punch me? Go ahead. It's the only solution you ever really understand. But Nick didn't throw the punch. Not there. He turned and left, a man possessed, with one name burning in his mind. Matt Smith. Audra's ex-boyfriend and former partner in crime, a small-time grifter with a big mouth and a gambling problem. If anyone knew where Audra would run, it was him. Nick found him at a dive bar on the outskirts of town, already 3 sheets to the wind and bragging to a disinterested bartender about his windfall. The scene that followed was one of the most raw and visceral in recent memory. Nick approached Matt, his voice deceptively calm. We need to talk about Audra. Matt, drunk and emboldened, smirked. Oh, do we? What's it worth to you, Newman? She's a valuable commodity. Nick's control snapped. He grabbed Matt by his leather jacket, slamming him against the bar. Where is she? Matt, spitting and laughing, uttered the line that sealed his fate. She's long gone, man. Off to some island to live like a queen with my share of the money. You and your whole damn family can go to hell. The mention of his family was the final straw. With a guttural roar of pure, unadulterated fury, Nick hauled back and landed a single, devastating punch to Matt's jaw. The crack was audible. Matt's head snapped back, and he crumpled to the sticky floor like a sack of potatoes, out cold, a trickle of blood already seeping from his split lip. Nick stood over him, chest heaving, his knuckles already swelling and bruised, staring at the unconscious man as the reality of his actions crashed down upon him. While Nick was crossing a line he couldn't uncross, Victoria Newman was engaging in a different kind of battle. She summoned Kyle to her office, her expression one of imperial displeasure. I know about your new venture with Audra, Charles, she stated, not waiting for him to sit. And I know she suddenly came into a significant amount of capital. A coincidence I find troubling. Kyle, ever the politician, tried to deflect. Victoria, this is a separate business matter. Audra has resources you're not aware of. Victoria's smile was icy. I am aware of every resource in this town, Kyle. Especially those that belong to my family. Tread very carefully. Association with a thief is bad for business. And I will not have the Abbott name, or any venture connected to Newman, tarnished by her crimes. For the first time, Kyle looked genuinely unnerved, the shiny allure of the $500,000 beginning to tarnish with the taint of its origin. As the sun set on a city forever changed, we saw our players in their private moments of reckoning. Audra, now Elena, watched from the window of an anonymous hotel room, the briefcase of cash open on the bed behind her. She had everything she thought she wanted: money, a new name, freedom. But her reflection in the dark glass showed a face etched not with triumph, but with a profound and unsettling loneliness. At the Newman Ranch, an ashen-faced Nate delivered the news to Victor and Nikki. The money is gone, and we have reason to believe Audra has already established a new identity. She's a ghost. Nikki buried her face in her hands, the shame and violation overwhelming her. Victor's expression, however, was not one of defeat, but of terrifying resolve. He placed a hand on his wife's shoulder, his voice soft but absolute. No one escapes me, Nikki. No one. She can change her name 100 times. I will still find her. And in the dim light of the dive bar, surrounded by the scent of stale beer and blood, Nick Newman sat in a patrol car, giving a statement to a police officer. He looked down at his bandaged hand, then through the window at the ambulance loading a groggy, handcuffed Matt Smith. He had gotten his answer, but the cost was a piece of his own soul. The recapper is left to wonder. In a city built on power and revenge, did Nick just save his family's honor, or did he lose himself completely in the process? And where, in all of Genoa City or beyond, can Audra possibly run from the wrath of Victor Newman? Wednesday, November 5th. was a day of theft and transformation, but it promises that the retribution to come will be far, far worse. The Young and the Restless. YNR. Spoilers hint that Matt Clark aka Mitch Bacall, Roger Howarth, may have gone after revenge over Sienna Bacall, Tamara Braun, cheating with Noah Newman, Lucas Adams. Was Matt responsible for the canyon crash that nearly took Noah's life? Nick Newman, Joshua Morrow, has been doing his best to nail down the real connection between Noah and Sienna. Noah had Sienna's name in his phone, so she's been on Nick's radar from the get-go. YNR fans will recall that Sienna was truly rattled when she got updates on Noah's crash. The news caught Sienna off guard since she was just with Noah shortly before it happened. During one of Nick's interrogations, he inquired about just how much Sienna liked his son. Sienna piped up about being a married woman, but that certainly doesn't mean she's been faithful to Mitch, aka Matt. It definitely seems like Sienna and Mitch have some relationship issues, so maybe. Victor's response was chillingly final.
No.
You're too close. This requires a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. I have people for this. But the look in Nick's eyes promised that he would not be sidelined. This was personal. It may not have been anything too serious yet, but Sienna seems to be protesting too much when it comes to having a personal relationship with Noah. The more Sienna downplays things and snaps about how she wasn't on a date with Noah the night of the crash, the more it seems like she's hiding the true nature of their bond. Of course, that doesn't mean Sienna was in love with Noah, since she probably would have had a more emotional reaction to his injuries if that were the case. Perhaps the real reason Sienna was so unsettled was her fear that Mitch might have found out about the affair and retaliated. Sienna seems to understand that Mitch is a shady guy, even if she's not sure how to feel about all this Matt Clark business. Mitch, aka Matt, is definitely the kind of man who'd have his wife's younger lover run off the road, or maybe even do it himself. That's especially true since Noah is Nick and Sharon Newman's, Sharon Case's, son. Matt may have already been targeting Noah for vengeful Newman-related reasons when Sienna kicked off this affair without understanding the history in play. That would have given Matt even more of a motive to target Noah. In other words, running Noah's car off the road may have been about making Sienna pay for the affair and messing with Noah's parents. In the November 4th episode, Mitch almost seemed to be taunting Sienna with talk about Noah's grim condition and comments about her not knowing him all that well. It feels like some mind games may be going on, which Matt is definitely good at. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Matt has much more manipulation in store for Sienna and the Newmans, so stay tuned. The Young and the Restless, YNR, spoilers reveal that 4 November romantic developments are on the way. There'll be temptation, love, triangle chaos, and more, so here's what YNR fans can expect. 1. Claire's huge romantic decision. For starters, Claire Newman, Haley Aaron, will find herself struggling to decide between something brand new with Holden Novak, Nathan Owens, and the familiar love that's still in her heart for Kyle Abbott, Michael Mueller. Although Claire went to bed with Holden, that doesn't mean she'll be able to forget about everything she feels for Kyle. Will Claire fully move on, or find a way to make things work with Kyle in the end? Claire has a huge romantic decision ahead of her, but the choice may not be hers alone. There's also the matter of whether Kyle will be able to get past her time between the sheets with Holden. 2. Tessa and Daniel are tempted to go all the way. Although Daniel Romalotti Jr., Michael Graziade, and Tessa Porter, Kate Fairbanks, shared a smooch, they've agreed to stick to friendship for now. Tessa hasn't ruled out the possibility of a romance with Daniel if she gets a divorce, but she doesn't want to cross any more lines while still married to Mariah Copeland, Cameron Grimes. However, temptation will prove awfully hard to bear in the coming episodes, especially now that Tessa's had a sizzling Daniel dream. Daniel and Tessa may not be able to resist falling into bed together, so that could complicate things even further between them. 3. Victoria and Nate's connection intensifies. As for Victoria Newman, Amelia Heinley, and Nate Hastings, Sean Dominic, they may be tempted to step out of the friend zone as well. Nate and Victoria's connection is only going to get stronger from here, so they may consider the idea of a romantic reunion. It's often messy when soap exes start inching their way toward couple status again, but Nate and Victoria won't be able to deny their lingering spark. Are Victoria and Nate on the verge of giving their relationship another try? 4. Phyllis and Kane go deeper into flirty, dangerous game. Meanwhile, Phyllis Summers, Michelle Stafford, and Kane Ashby, Billy Flynn, could be headed for trouble thanks to the dangerous game they're playing. Kane's suspects Phyllis stole the AI program and went to Victor Newman, Eric Braden with it, but she continues to deny any wrongdoing. Y&R fans know Phyllis really is behind the theft and a Victor deal, but she'll continue flirting and will keep Kane intrigued. Kane will flirt back and keep doing this dance with Phyllis, so all this could explode in the bedroom if they aren't careful. The Young and the Restless spoilers say there's plenty of romantic news on the way in Genoa City, so stay tuned for updates on which pairings will rise and fall. The Young and the Restless. Y&R. Spoilers for Wednesday, November 5th, reveal that Nick Newman, Joshua Morrow, and Matt Clark aka Mitch Bacall, Roger Howarth, will have a fierce face-off. Sienna Bacall, Tamara Braun will also focus on a police cover-up. So let's talk about all the action coming up in Wednesday's show. Despite Sharon Newman's Sharon case, phone call with updates on Noah Newman's Lucas Adams coma awakening, Nick may not be able to pass up his opportunity to confront Matt. Perhaps Nick will simply promise Sharon that he'll be there as soon as he can and head into the shadow room first. Sienna will be busy trying to keep the cops off her trail in Wednesday's show, so that may allow Nick to corner Mitch alone. Whatever the case, Y&R spoilers say Sienna will indeed concentrate on a police cover-up. It's clear that Sienna wants to avoid any scrutiny when it comes to her connection to Noah, so she'll work to protect herself and the nightclub. In the meantime, Nick will face off with his worst foe of all time. Although Nick trusts Sharon's judgment on this, he'll be even more convinced that Mitch is Matt when he sees the guy for himself. Matt may play more mind games and try to act like Nick's got it all wrong, but Nick will feel certain he's staring at his old nemesis. There'll be some incredibly tense moments as Nick barks out questions and delivers some major threats. At the hospital, Victoria Newman, Amelie Heinley, will mull over Noah's crash and worry about how suspicious it all seems. This could lead to Victoria pumping Sharon for more info, so will Sharon admit Matt Clark is alive and maybe linked to what happened? Regardless, Nick will ultimately head to the hospital and join Sharon by Noah's bedside. Once Nick reunites with Noah, he'll express how glad he is to see his son awake and alert. The Young and the Restless spoilers say the doctor will eventually announce it's time for Noah's bandages to come off, so more good news is ahead for Sharon and Nick. The Young and the Restless. Y&R. Recap for Tuesday, November 4th, reveals that Noah Newman, Lucas Adams, will struggle with some memory issues while Claire Newman, Haley Aaron, meets Mitch Bacall aka Matt Clark, Roger Howarth, and gets bad vibes. At their hotel, Nick Newman, Joshua Morrow, will stop by Sharon Newman's Sharon case room with a scone, so they'll discuss how they didn't get much sleep due to Matt's return and their concerns about Noah. Sharon will plan on heading back to the hospital, but Nick will want to join her there a bit later. In the meantime, Nick will hope to ambush Matt at the shadow room and try to get some answers. At the hotel cafe, Claire will have sunglasses on due to her hangover as she eats breakfast with Victoria Newman, Amelia Heinley, and Nikki Newman, Melody Thomas Scott. Nikki will seem a little uncomfortable over Claire's drinking before talk turns to Claire's decision to head home to Genoa City. Once Holden Novak, Nath,